What's up, Kryptonians, and welcome to yet another video breaking down the Rings of Power. The latest episode dropped this past Thursday, and I wanted to have a chance to talk about it. Also, before I get started, I do kind of want to apologize. I said I was going to be doing this weekly. I was supposed to have a video up talking about episode 4 last week. Life got in the way, and I didn't have enough time, and things got away from me, and my bad. I was supposed to do it, and I just didn't get a chance to do it. But here I'm back with episode 5, and to be honest, it's probably a blessing in disguise, because episode 5 is one of the best episodes of the season, if not the best episode of the season. One last disclaimer, just like before, this is going to be a video where I break down some of my most notable things that happened during the episode. It's not going to be a play-by-play, and there might be some things that I just don't get to talk about. I'm going to try to avoid some of the heavy lore cuts that might spoil people about things that may or may not happen. This is the episode where everything feels so urgent, everything feels important. There's a level of intensity and stakes to everything that's going on that I don't know if every other episode has captured so far. That's not to say we don't need slow down episodes or episodes where we focus on character, stuff like that, but this episode felt very much plot driven while also enhancing the characters, and they gave us the storylines that we cared about. We got Annatar and Celebrimbor, we got the Khazad-dûm plotline, we even spent some time in Numenor. I have to start with Annatar and Celebrimbor because holy shit, things are getting really toxic. You watch their back and forth and their dynamic, does it not remind you of a toxic passive-aggressive marriage? Like, listen to the way these two talk to each other. Annatar acting like he's all sulky and moody or whatever after they announce the making of the 7 rings. When he's up there and he's like, I told you to keep it short, and then Celebrimbor is like, well, I didn't hear you say that. And then Annatar is like, well, you just don't listen to me. Come on, what kind of passive-aggressive bullshit is this? Annatar was at his snaky best in this episode. Every single thing Annatar does in this episode is to gaslight somebody or manipulate them, to push them in a direction that they don't really want to go, but he wants them to go, but he has to make it seem like it's their idea. You remember that scene from Inception where Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character is basically like, okay, here's the problem with planting an idea in your head. If I tell you not to think about elephants, what are you thinking about? Elephants. Well, yeah, that's not your idea because I gave it to you. It's exactly what this entire episode was. It was just Annatar putting ideas in people's heads. He's the one that's actually pushing them in this direction, and they kind of make it feel like it's their idea. There's a couple of Myrddania scenes that are really creepy. The first one is after Celebrimbor has refused to make the rings for men because he's like, yeah, men are corruptible. We can't make rings for men. And Annatar weirdly just goes, okay, well, I'll make the rings myself. And Celebrimbor, I guess, is just like, well, I'm just not going to participate. If you want to make those rings, go ahead and do it, but I'm not going to be a part of it. But he has to be a part of it because one of the elven smiths in his shop, Myrddania, she like goes crazy or something. They're like trying to test out these rings. And apparently she goes invisible. That's like one of the properties is that you go invisible when you put on the ring. And then she like gets a glimpse of the unseen world. What she actually gets a glimpse of is Sauron's real form. She describes a tall figure, skin made of flames and eyes that are pitiless and evil. And I'm just like, yes, this is awesome. This is exactly what Sauron is supposed to sound like. And then right afterward, where Annatar is like flirting with Myrddania, the entire time I was losing my mind. Because he's talking to her about what happened, and he's like trying to convince her that it was actually Celebrimbor that she saw, and that his spirit is getting weighed down by the toll of creating these rings. Like I said, nothing but manipulation and gaslighting tactics, but it's what he said next that's got everybody going crazy. When he said that the light hit her hair a certain type of way and it created a certain likeness with Lady Galadriel, I was just like, you fucking creep. Either you're flirting with Myrddania to manipulate her by saying she looks like Lady Galadriel because Lady Galadriel is supposed to be one of the most badass, powerful, and beautiful elves in all of history. That's probably a part of it, but you're also kind of reminiscing about Galadriel, which shows that she's in your head rent-free and you can't get her rejection out of your mind. So the shippers definitely were very happy about this. The entire time, like, he reaches out and he touches her hair, I'm just like, get away from her, get a job, do not touch her. What the fuck are you doing? Just a bunch of creepy ass scenes with Annatar. I do like the little lore references, and not to nerd out, but I'm just gonna do that here. There's a brief moment where he mentions Beren and he mentions Tuor and he mentions Arendil, and that was just like a great moment if you've read some of the lore, if you know the people that he's talking about. I don't know, I thought it was pretty cool. The most depressing thing about this storyline is you can kind of see Celebrimbor is breaking down. Like, he is getting caught up in all of this toxicity. It really is affecting his spirit. You can kind of have like a mental breakdown at the end of the episode where his hands are shaking and he kind of realizes he's kind of stuck in this thing now. Like, he can't go back and they're kind of stuck doing this and he has to just try to make the best of it. I like the fact that they're kind of using the whole how you make the rings. It's not just the material, but the spirituality that you pour into your work. quirk that kind of affects the rings and how they're made and who's using them. The fact that he was just kind of like, well, we made the 3 rings with the permission of Gil-galad, but we made the 7 rings in deception, so that could have affected like how the rings came out. And so you have to go to Gil-galad and you have to admit what you've done. Celebrimbor, you could tell, is being torn apart by this. He is torn between no, men should not have rings, but also like, I don't want to tell my king about it because he's gonna make us stop. I'm on the cusp of greatness and I can't allow Gil-galad to stop my wave. I feel so bad for Celebrimbor. I don't want to spoil what's gonna happen to him, but this is not gonna be pretty. Side note, we did see the Doors of Durin being created sort of in this episode. We didn't actually see the process of them being created. I would have wanted to see that actually. I also would have wanted to see more of the relationship between Celebrimbor and Narvi. Like they have like a nice little joke or whatever, but we don't get to see much more beyond that. I get it that the show has a lot that it's trying to juggle. One little funny thing I wanted to point out is that we only get like a couple of scenes of Elrond in this episode. Elrond is booking. He is Usain bolting through the woods to try to get back to Lindon. The entire time though that he was running and he was like leaving the other elves in the dust, I was just sitting there like, where are your horses? Why did you guys not bring horses on this journey? Like it just, logistically, I don't know if it makes that much sense. Kind of interested in Gil-galad and his visions. Like some of them, I'm kind of like, is he envisioning the coming battle? Some of it, does it feel like he's having visions further out into the future of something that might not be shown until season 5? I am going to come back to Gil-galad and his visions at some point when I'm talking about the finale for the show. The Numenor plotline was kind of a mixed bag, but it was mostly good, but it was kind of, it was bittersweet, I guess is probably the best way I would describe my feelings about Numenor. The Numenor plotline just has so many interesting things about it, and it could easily be the most compelling plotline in the entire show if the show actually realized this and dedicated more time to it. It just kind of feels like things are being developed off screen, and it feels like things are still moving pretty fast for the Numenor plot. Finally, Ar-Pharazôn is talking to Kemen, his son, and he's talking about the jealous feelings that he might have, the bitter feelings he has towards elves, because elves have immortality and their work and their lives will last forever, and men, that's just something we're not going to be able to achieve. If you know anything about the lore, you know that the contention of immortality and the mortality of men, that's like a big part of the core theme of Numenor. It's kind of frustrating that this is really the first time in season 2 that in the entire series that we're actually focusing on this. It's just kind of weird. I mean, we saw the end of episode 3, but then we don't see Pharazôn become king actually. We don't see Míriel or Pharazôn's reactions to this. It's kind of criminal that we're in season 2 and we've only had one truly one-on-one scene between Míriel and between Ar-Pharazôn. I find that weird. That's a relationship that should have been developed a little bit more. This is really the episode where we get to say fuck Kemen, he's a piece of shit, we don't like him. We also get to say fuck Elendil's daughter. We're not even gonna call her by her name anymore. Nope, from now on she's just Elendil's daughter, and I'm not even sure he would refer to her as that because they are just like diametrically opposed politically on this whole thing. Granted, it's still good writing because I can see where Elendil's daughter, okay, Eärien, I can see why she feels the way that she feels, but she's just like unequivocally wrong, and you're on Elendil's side, you're on Míriel's side. Also, shout out to that scene between Elendil and Míriel where she's like trying to tell him to keep the faith, basically. A sucker for good romance. I've been trying to see these two, like, I want to see yearning, I want to see longing, I want to see desire, spark, sizzle. Even if they're not clapping cheeks or anything like that, I kind of want to see that. To see them have that tender moment where she's like touching his chest and he like grabs her hand, or the first time she didn't even know that he was trying to reach for her hand. I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, fuck Kemen, man. My boy Valandil was whooping his ass. He got hit in the face by Elendil. I'm like, yes, this is amazing. And then Kemen, because he's a bitch made, you know what, let me calm down.
Fuck that bitch!
He kills Valandil after Valandil had beaten him and then surrendered, and I'm just like, this entire scene, none of it needed to happen. The faithful are in this church, they're in this temple, they're trying to get their worship done, and he just comes in there and he shits over all of it. You have that statue of Nienna where it's like he just drops it on the floor. I'm like, why? You didn't even have to do. Of course they're going to get mad at you, bro. I was screaming at the screen. I'm like, Valandil, don't listen to him. Run your sword through his throat. Ask for forgiveness, not permission. Just do it. Please don't do it. He didn't do it, of course, and I'm just, I'm heartbroken. I can't believe Elendil's gone, man. I would actually say the most interesting plot line of episode 5 was the Khazad-dûm plot line. I really like the dynamic between Durin the Third and Durin the Fourth, and the way that their dynamic has completely shifted and flipped around this season. In season 1, there was a lot of tension between them because Durin the Fourth wanted, you know, he had ambitions. He wanted them to dig deeper into the taverns, and his father was just very cautious and kind of stubborn and old school, and he's just like, no, I don't want to jeopardize dwarves by digging deeper into the mountain. Well, now he's under the influence of this ring, and we see it bringing out all of his inner greed and ambition, and he's just like, no, we need to keep digging. We need to dig more. We need to find these riches. He's charging the other dwarf lords. He's like, if you guys want these rings of power, you have to give us half of your treasure. I'm just like, fuck you. So it's kind of heartbreaking to see Durin the Fourth, like he has his inheritance back. He's looked at as a prince again, but it's like his father feels too far gone at this point to help him. The scene of Disa like stumbling onto the hidden depths or whatever was kind of silly if that's how they discover that there's a Balrog living like hundreds of miles beneath them. I do hope that the fall of Khazad-dûm still isn't this season. I'm hoping that happens much later because canonically it's supposed to happen a lot later in the Second Age. I did have a weird theory that maybe that monster that she heard was not the Balrog though. Maybe it was the water monster from the Fellowship of the Ring. You guys remember that big tentacle thing that attacked the Fellowship and Fellowship of the Ring outside the Mines of Moria? Maybe she sort of detected the presence of that thing. The way the water was moving is just a theory. Maybe it's not true or whatever. Either way, I know the Balrog is there. I just hope that the Balrog is not destroying Khazad-dûm by the end of the season. Khazad-dûm's storyline needs to live a little bit longer. Putting that aside, I don't care what kind of canon you have to break. Disa and Durin the Fourth are amazing together. I don't want anything bad to happen to them. Like, they're two of the best characters in the show. Please don't do anything to them. Please let them survive. I need them thriving. I need them unbothered and just living peacefully. Please don't. I'm begging the showrunners to break canon and save them. We didn't get a lot of Galadriel in this episode, but the way things ended off with her kind of threatening Adar, destined to have a conversation about Sauron and everything that's happened since they last saw each other, that's going to be really interesting. The best part about this episode is that we didn't have the Stranger or the Harfoots or the Stores or Rune plot lines. Like, all of that got cut out, and to be honest, we could probably afford to have more of that cut out. It does feel like certain things are moving kind of fast. The Numenor plot, while it's exciting about some of the stuff there, it does feel like we're kind of speeding through some of that. Between the Silmarillion references, between the Khazad-dûm plot line, and between Annatar just being a manipulative, gaslighting, bitch-made snake, I would say the personal stakes and the stakes for the entire season have never been higher. I am really looking forward to next week, episode 6. I think the fall of Eregion begins next week, so we're gonna get like 2 or 3 episodes of just non-stop battles, epic shit, and I just can't wait to see it. Guys, those are my overall thoughts on episode 5. I thought it was a really great episode. Tell me what was your favorite moment of the episode. Put that in the comment section down below. Please like and subscribe to the Superfan Show, and if you like what you see, tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace.